Elizabeth Miller grew up in the quiet suburbs of Boston, raised by the Joneses, a modest family with unassuming lives. But Elizabeth always felt like an outsider, yearning for something she couldn't quite define. On her 18th birthday, her world turned upside down when a chance encounter revealed her true lineage. She was the long-lost daughter of Charles Miller, a wealthy and powerful CEO based in New York. The revelation came with a whirlwind of emotions: excitement, fear, and a deep sense of betrayal. Charles Miller, under pressure from his domineering mother Eliza, had disowned Elizabeth's biological mother, Margaret, decades earlier. Eliza had crafted a narrative that painted Margaret as an opportunist, erasing any trace of Elizabeth from their lives. But fate had other plans. Elizabeth's integration into the Miller family wasn't seamless. Her newfound wealth and status attracted jealousy, particularly from her fiancé, Chris Hawthorne. Chris had always been supportive, or so Elizabeth thought, but his demeanor changed drastically as she began embracing her new life. The transition was turbulent. Elizabeth's sudden ascension into wealth exposed her to a world of high society filled with intricate games of power and influence. Balls, charity galas, and exclusive social gatherings became part of her new routine. Yet, despite the glamorous facade, Elizabeth felt out of place. She often reminisced about her simple life in Boston, where love and family seemed more genuine. Chris's increasing coldness only heightened her sense of isolation. In New York, Elizabeth met Matthew Sinclair, a mysterious and influential businessman. Matthew's charm was undeniable, but his connection to the Miller family's tangled web remained elusive. Beneath his polished exterior, Matthew harbored secrets of his own, ones that would inevitably intertwine with Elizabeth's path to self-discovery and revenge. At a charity event hosted by the Millers, Matthew approached Elizabeth with a proposition. He claimed to know truths about her family that could alter her perspective forever. Intrigued yet cautious, Elizabeth agreed to meet him privately. Their clandestine discussions unveiled shocking details about the Millers' history, including Eliza's covert dealings to maintain her iron grip on the family empire. Elizabeth's late-night meetings with Matthew became a secret she guarded fiercely. He revealed to her a side of the Miller dynasty that was both sinister and deeply entrenched in manipulation. Eliza's hold over the family extended to corporate espionage, blackmail, and betrayal, all hidden beneath the veneer of a respectable legacy. Matthew's interest in Elizabeth, however, was not purely professional. Their conversations often drifted from family scandals to personal dreams, shared fears, and quiet moments of vulnerability. Elizabeth found herself drawn to his intensity and the unwavering support he offered, even as she remained wary of his motivations. Meanwhile, Chris's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He confronted Elizabeth one evening, accusing her of prioritizing her newfound wealth over their relationship. The argument escalated into a revelation. Chris had been secretly meeting with Eliza, seeking to align himself with her influence in a bid to secure his own ambitions. Elizabeth felt a sharp pang of betrayal, realizing the man she thought she loved was complicit in the very schemes she sought to dismantle. Determined to reclaim control of her life, Elizabeth delved deeper into the Miller family's operations. She uncovered documents that exposed decades of fraudulent dealings orchestrated by Eliza. These findings solidified her resolve to take a stand against her grandmother, even if it meant dismantling the empire she had only just begun to understand. As Elizabeth's world unraveled, Matthew became her anchor. Their connection intensified, culminating in a stolen kiss on a rain-soaked evening in Central Park. It was a moment of clarity for Elizabeth. Her feelings for Matthew were undeniable, yet fraught with uncertainty. Could she trust a man whose motivations were still partially obscured? In a bid to protect Elizabeth, Matthew disclosed his own vendetta against Eliza. Years earlier, his family's business had been sabotaged by the Millers, leaving his father in financial ruin. His pursuit of Elizabeth was initially a calculated move, a way to expose Eliza's misdeeds. But his feelings for Elizabeth had evolved into something genuine, complicating his original plans. Elizabeth's heart was torn. The web of lies and betrayal surrounding her seemed insurmountable, yet Matthew's honesty offered a glimmer of hope. Together, they began to plot their next steps, determined to bring the truth to light while navigating the fragile threads of their burgeoning relationship. As Elizabeth and Matthew delved deeper into the Miller family's dark secrets, the stakes grew higher. The documents Elizabeth had uncovered were just the tip of the iceberg. Matthew's extensive network of contacts helped her unearth a trail of unethical business practices, bribes, and hidden accounts that Eliza had used to maintain her grip on power. Their investigation brought them closer, not just emotionally but in their shared determination to see justice served. However, the closer they got to the truth, the more dangerous their mission became. Eliza, ever the matriarch with a sixth sense for threats, began to suspect Elizabeth's defiance. She unleashed her loyalists, shadowing Elizabeth's movements and attempting to thwart her efforts at every turn. Elizabeth's transformation was undeniable. Gone was the timid girl from Boston. In her place stood a resolute woman unafraid to confront her family's sins. She began asserting herself at board meetings, leveraging her newfound knowledge to challenge Eliza's authority. This boldness earned her respect from some allies within the company, but also intensified the animosity from those loyal to her grandmother. In the midst of the chaos, Elizabeth's relationship with Matthew faced its own trials. His past involvement with the Millers, though transparent to her now, made him a target for Eliza's wrath. A late-night ambush orchestrated by Eliza's henchmen left Matthew injured but more determined than ever to stand by Elizabeth's side. Their bond, forged in adversity, became the anchor that kept them moving forward. Meanwhile, Chris, consumed by envy and desperation, made a last-ditch effort to win Elizabeth back. He confronted her at her apartment, pleading for another chance and promising to sever ties with Eliza. But Elizabeth, having grown wiser and stronger, refused to be swayed. Her rejection was final, and it shattered whatever illusions Chris had left about their future. The turning point came when Elizabeth and Matthew discovered a ledger hidden within one of Charles Miller's old offices. It detailed transactions implicating Eliza in a scandal so severe it threatened to bring down not just the Miller empire but several influential allies in New York's elite circles. The evidence was damning, and it gave Elizabeth the leverage she needed to force a confrontation. Elizabeth arranged a meeting with Eliza at the family estate. The atmosphere was charged with tension as Elizabeth presented the ledger, laying bare the matriarch's misdeeds. For the first time, Eliza's ironclad composure faltered. She attempted to dismiss Elizabeth's accusations, but the younger woman stood firm, demanding accountability and a relinquishment of control over the family legacy. Eliza, cornered and desperate, made a chilling offer. She would step down, but only if Elizabeth agreed to publicly exonerate her. The offer tested Elizabeth's moral compass, forcing her to choose between justice and the potential fallout for the family name. After a long, agonizing pause, Elizabeth made her decision. Elizabeth rejected Eliza's offer, choosing instead to expose the truth regardless of the consequences. The ensuing fallout was swift and far-reaching. News of the Miller family's corruption spread like wildfire, splashing across headlines and dominating media outlets. The Miller empire crumbled under the weight of public scrutiny, and several of Eliza's closest allies were arrested or forced to resign from their positions. Eliza, once a towering figure of authority, retreated into the shadows. Her public disgrace was complete, and her influence within the family and the business world evaporated. For Elizabeth, it was a bittersweet victory. She had achieved her goal of holding her grandmother accountable, but the cost was high. The Miller name was tarnished, and the empire her father had built was left in shambles. Amid the chaos, Elizabeth found solace in Matthew. Their shared experiences had forged a bond that was unbreakable. They decided to leave New York behind, seeking a fresh start where they could build a life free from the shadows of their past. Together they moved to Boston, where Elizabeth felt a renewed sense of belonging. In Boston, Elizabeth and Matthew embarked on a new venture. They opened a non-profit organization dedicated to helping those affected by corporate greed and corruption. The work was fulfilling, and it allowed Elizabeth to channel her pain and anger into something positive. Her relationship with Matthew flourished, built on trust, love, and a shared vision for the future. Despite the challenges they had faced, Elizabeth found peace in her new life. She reconnected with the Joneses, who welcomed her back with open arms. Her journey had come full circle, and she finally felt at home. The crisp air of a Boston autumn carried with it the promise of renewal. Elizabeth stood on the balcony of her modest yet elegant home, watching the sunrise paint the city in hues of gold and orange. Beside her, Matthew offered a cup of steaming coffee, his presence a quiet reminder of the strength they had built together. Their shared journey had been anything but easy, yet it had forged a bond that transcended the chaos they had endured. The non-profit they had started, aptly named the Phoenix Foundation, quickly became a beacon of hope for those impacted by corporate greed. Through tireless work, Elizabeth and Matthew brought to light the stories of countless individuals who had been exploited or left behind by powerful conglomerates. Their efforts garnered widespread attention, and the foundation soon became a model for change, proving that justice and compassion could reshape lives. Elizabeth's transformation didn't go unnoticed. Invitations to speak at prestigious events poured in, and she became a voice for those who had suffered in silence for too long. At one such event, held at a historic Boston venue, Elizabeth delivered a heartfelt speech that left the audience in awe. She spoke not just of the Miller family's downfall but of her journey from a forgotten child to a woman who reclaimed her power and purpose. Amid their successes, Elizabeth and Matthew found time to nurture their personal lives. Their love deepened with every passing day, and Matthew proposed during a quiet evening at their favorite park. It was a simple yet profound moment, reflective of the life they had built together. Elizabeth said yes, her heart full of gratitude and hope. The wedding was intimate, attended by close friends and the Joneses, who had been a constant source of support. Charles Miller, humbled by the events that had transpired, extended an olive branch, expressing a desire to reconnect. Elizabeth, though cautious, saw it as an opportunity for healing. She agreed to maintain contact, setting boundaries to protect the new life she had worked so hard to create. Eliza, on the other hand, remained distant. She had retreated to a quiet estate, her days marked by reflection and regret. Though Elizabeth harbored no ill will, she chose not to extend an invitation to the wedding, understanding that some wounds were best left to heal in solitude. In the years that followed, Elizabeth and Matthew expanded their work with the Phoenix Foundation. They established scholarships, launched awareness campaigns, and partnered with like-minded organizations to amplify their impact. Their efforts transformed countless lives, giving voice to those who had been silenced by systems of power. Through it all, Elizabeth found a sense of fulfillment she had never known. She had faced her darkest fears, navigated betrayal, and stood up to forces that sought to control her. In doing so, she discovered her true self, a woman capable of immense strength, compassion, and resilience. As the seasons turned, Elizabeth often reflected on her journey. She had gone from being a lost soul yearning for connection to someone who inspired others to find their own paths. Her story, once defined by pain and loss, had become a testament to the power of love, forgiveness, and determination. One evening, as she and Matthew sat by the fire, Elizabeth smiled. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" she mused, her voice soft but full of wonder. Matthew took her hand, his gaze steady and warm. "We have. And there's so much more ahead." Together, they looked toward the future, ready to embrace whatever came their way. For Elizabeth Miller, life was no longer about seeking a place to belong. She had built her own, filled with love, purpose, and the promise of new beginnings. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Elizabeth's story, a tale of resilience, redemption, and the transformative power of love. If you've been inspired by her determination to overcome adversity and carve out a brighter future, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like this story to show your support, subscribe for more captivating narratives, and share this journey with friends and family who might need a little encouragement to chase their own new beginnings. Your comments are always welcome. Tell us what resonated most with you or share your own stories of triumph and renewal. Together, let's celebrate the power of storytelling to inspire and uplift. Thank you for being part of our community. File name: Lost Heiress Love Revenge Dynasty Drama Romantic Story.